Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Many people experience a deep sense of loneliness or isolation, believing that they are fundamentally disconnected from others. This sense of separateness can create feelings of alienation, as if there is a gap between themselves and the world around them. However, this belief in separation is often rooted in a misconception, a misunderstanding of the true nature of existence. The feeling of being apart from others, of being alone in a crowd, is merely a psychological construct. In reality, there are no distinct boundaries between the self and the other. Everything is part of a vast, interconnected web of life. A person may feel isolated, but this feeling arises from their perception, not from any objective reality. The idea of being separate from others is deeply ingrained in our individualistic culture, which places great emphasis on personal identity, achievement, and autonomy. This cultural conditioning leads people to believe that they must carve out their own path and stand apart from the rest. As a result, someone without friends may internalize the belief that they are fundamentally different or less worthy of connection. However, this belief only serves to perpetuate their isolation. When one begins to see through this illusion of separation, they can begin to recognize that they are not isolated at all, but are part of the collective experience of humanity. In truth, the boundaries we draw between ourselves and others are fluid and porous. The person who feels alone may not realize that their essence is interconnected with the very fabric of existence. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions ripple outward, affecting others and the world in ways we may not fully comprehend. To understand this interconnectedness is to see that isolation is a falsehood created by the mind. In the same way that a wave cannot be separated from the ocean, an individual cannot be fully separated from the larger whole of life. Recognizing this interconnectedness allows us to see that we are never truly alone. The illusion of separation also extends to our perceptions of ourselves and the world. When one feels isolated, it is often because they have become overly focused on their own identity and needs, losing sight of the larger context in which they exist. By becoming preoccupied with the self, a person inadvertently distances themselves from the rest of humanity and the world. However, when the focus shifts from the individual to the larger whole, the sense of separation begins to dissolve. In this space, the individual is no longer just a separate entity struggling against the world, but a part of a dynamic, interconnected universe. It is in the recognition of this interconnectedness that true connection with others can be found. A person without friends may feel isolated, but this is only because they have not yet realized their inherent connection to everything around them. When the illusion of separation is seen for what it is, a construct of the mind, one can begin to open up to the possibility of connection with others. Rather than seeking friendship as a way to fill a perceived void, one can begin to approach relationships from a place of wholeness, understanding that they are already part of a greater whole. True friendship, in its essence, is not about transactional exchanges or superficial connections. It transcends the idea of using others for personal gain or relying on relationships to fulfill unmet needs. True friends are not individuals you turn to when you need something, but rather people with whom you share a deep mutual understanding and respect. In genuine friendship, both parties come together not out of necessity, but out of a desire to connect authentically, without expectations or ulterior motives. It is a space where both individuals are free to be themselves, to express vulnerability and authenticity, and to support one another in their journeys through life. A person without friends may find it difficult to comprehend this deeper, more meaningful form of connection. Often, such individuals may seek companionship out of loneliness or neediness, which can create a dynamic of dependency rather than mutual growth. When relationships are based on fulfilling personal gaps or ego-driven desires, they lack the substance that makes them truly enriching. The ego may drive one to form relationships that are centered around how they can gain from others, whether emotionally, socially, or materially. In doing so, the individual may overlook the true purpose of friendship, the experience of genuine companionship, grounded in understanding and shared moments. True friendship requires the ability to be vulnerable, to meet another person as an equal without trying to control, manipulate, or change them. It is not about what can I get from you, but how can we share this moment together. The rich experiences of life come not from accumulating people or relationships for personal validation, but from offering oneself fully to another, without fear or judgment. This level of connection is not something that can be forced or rushed. It grows naturally over time when both individuals are open, accepting, and willing to share their true selves with one another. A person who is caught in the cycle of seeking friendships based on ego or need often finds themselves disappointed. These relationships, although they may appear fulfilling at first, are shallow and temporary because they are not grounded in a deeper mutual respect or understanding. The quest for validation through relationships only leads to more disconnection, as one person is always seeking something from the other, instead of giving or sharing with them. When individuals approach relationships from a place of personal gain, they miss the opportunity to experience the depth of connection that comes from true friendship, one where both individuals simply enjoy each other's company without expectation. The nature of true friendship lies in the recognition that companionship is not about filling a void or meeting a need, but about two people meeting in a space of equality, acceptance, and presence. It is a connection that does not require effort or striving, but simply unfolds as both individuals open themselves to one another. A person without friends may be searching for companionship, but until they shift from ego-driven connections to relationships based on mutual respect and shared experience, they will miss the profound depth that true friendship offers. Self-reflection is a vital practice in understanding both oneself and the world around us. It involves looking inward to examine our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judgment. A person who lacks friends may be disconnected from their inner state, unaware of the emotional and psychological patterns that shape their interactions with others. This disconnection can lead to difficulties in forming genuine relationships, as the individual may not fully understand their own needs, desires, or how they are perceived by others. Without this internal awareness, it's challenging to engage with others authentically, and relationships may feel shallow or unfulfilling. True connection with others begins with a deep understanding of oneself. Self-reflection allows a person to uncover the root causes of their loneliness or isolation and recognize any unresolved emotional conflicts that may be affecting their ability to form relationships. When someone is not in touch with their inner state, they may project their insecurities, fears, or emotional walls onto others, preventing true intimacy from developing. Only by addressing these internal issues can a person begin to relate to others from a place of emotional clarity, openness, and self-acceptance. The process of self-reflection also involves understanding the motivations behind our relationships. People often seek companionship to fulfill certain needs, whether it be for validation, support, or simply to avoid feelings of loneliness. However, if one is unaware of these motivations, they may end up forming relationships that are based on dependency rather than mutual respect and understanding. By reflecting on what we truly need from others and examining our expectations in relationships, we can start to engage more honestly and authentically with the people around us, creating space for deeper and more meaningful connections. When we become attuned to our inner world, we can approach others not with the need to fulfill an emptiness, but with the capacity to share ourselves fully. In relationships where both individuals are grounded in their own self-awareness, there is a stronger foundation for empathy, respect, and understanding. Each person can appreciate the other for who they truly are, rather than seeing them as a means to an end or an escape from their own discomfort. This authentic exchange is the essence of deep friendships, which are rooted in the mutual understanding of each other's emotional landscapes. For a person without friends, the journey towards meaningful connections often begins with this inward journey. Through self-reflection, they can uncover the barriers that have kept them isolated and work towards healing any emotional wounds or negative beliefs that have prevented them from engaging with others. By coming to terms with their inner state and embracing a sense of self-worth, they open themselves to the possibility of forming relationships that are not only fulfilling but transformative, where both individuals can grow and evolve together. The ego often acts as a barrier to forming genuine relationships, especially when it comes to how we perceive ourselves and interact with others. A person without friends may be overly concerned with how they are viewed by others, constantly seeking validation or approval. This fixation on the ego creates an environment where real connection is difficult to achieve. When one is focused on projecting a certain image or maintaining control over their public persona, they are not able to engage authentically with others. Instead, they are locked in a cycle of self-protection, which prevents true emotional intimacy from taking root. At the core of many human relationships is the desire for acceptance, but when this desire is driven by the ego, it can distort the way we relate to others. The ego thrives on external validation and may cause individuals to shape their behavior to fit the expectations of others, rather than presenting their true selves. In such relationships, there is little room for the vulnerability or openness that creates lasting bonds. A person trapped in the ego's grip may find it challenging to trust others or to let their guard down, making it difficult for genuine friendships to form. Instead of connecting on a deeper level, relationships are often based on performance or the fulfillment of superficial needs. To truly connect with others, it is necessary to transcend the ego's need for control and approval. By letting go of the desire to shape how others perceive us, we create space for authenticity to emerge. When one can release the ego's grip on relationships, they can approach others with openness and vulnerability, qualities that are essential for building strong, meaningful connections. True friendship is based not on status or external recognition, but on mutual respect, shared values, and the ability to be real with one another. This shift away from ego-driven interactions allows individuals to create bonds that are not dependent on appearances or expectations, but on the genuine exchange of trust and understanding. The ego's constant need for validation can often create a cycle of isolation. A person focused on what others think may push people away by inadvertently maintaining a sense of distance and detachment. They might fear judgment or rejection, which causes them to put up emotional walls. However, when we release this fear and step into relationships with an open heart, we create opportunities for true connection. Relationships that are grounded in the absence of ego are more stable, as they are not contingent on how well one performs or how much they are validated by others. Instead, they are rooted in the simple joy of sharing experiences and supporting one another through life's ups and downs. The ego's role in relationships is one of illusion and limitation. It creates the false belief that we need to protect ourselves from others in order to be safe or valued. However, by letting go of the ego's need for control, we can approach relationships with honesty, humility, and openness. This shift enables us to engage with others in a way that fosters deeper connections, leading to friendships that are not only fulfilling but enduring. By embracing vulnerability and releasing the ego's need for perfection or validation, we create the possibility for truly authentic relationships to blossom. The fear of vulnerability is one of the most powerful forces that prevent people from forming deep and meaningful relationships. Vulnerability requires us to open up, expose our true selves, and risk being hurt or rejected. For someone without friends, this fear can be paralyzing. They may hide their emotions, desires, or insecurities, believing that if they reveal too much of themselves, they will be judged or abandoned. This self-imposed barrier creates a distance between the individual and others, preventing the genuine intimacy needed for true connection. When we hold ourselves back emotionally, we limit our ability to build relationships based on authenticity and mutual understanding. At its core, the fear of vulnerability stems from a desire for self-protection. The ego convinces us that exposing our inner world makes us weak or unworthy. Yet this defense mechanism only reinforces feelings of isolation. In avoiding vulnerability, we deny ourselves the opportunity to connect with others on a deeper level. Genuine friendships are built on trust, and trust can only grow when individuals allow themselves to be vulnerable, sharing their true thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. By withholding parts of ourselves, we unknowingly create walls that prevent others from seeing who we truly are. To overcome the fear of vulnerability, one must first accept that being vulnerable is not a weakness but a strength. It takes courage to be open and to trust that others will receive us with empathy and understanding. A person without friends may struggle with this, as they might feel that vulnerability will only lead to rejection or pain. However, by embracing vulnerability, they allow themselves the chance to experience the richness of human connection. It is only when we let down our guard and allow others to see us fully, imperfections and all, that we open the door to real companionship. Vulnerability creates space for mutual growth within relationships. When both individuals are willing to be open with each other, they create a foundation of trust that allows them to support one another through challenges and celebrate successes together. In this environment, both people feel safe to express their true selves, leading to a deeper and more authentic connection. Without vulnerability, relationships remain superficial, as they are based on masks and projections, rather than true emotional exchange. The journey to overcoming the fear of vulnerability requires self-compassion and patience. It's not something that can be forced, but a gradual process of learning to trust both ourselves and others. By accepting our imperfections and recognizing that we are worthy of love and connection, just as we are, we can begin to dismantle the walls built by fear. Only through this willingness to be vulnerable can we break free from isolation and form meaningful, lasting relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Solitude, though often associated with loneliness, holds a deep value in the journey towards self-awareness and personal growth. For someone who finds themselves without friends, the experience of isolation can be a powerful opportunity for introspection. Without the distractions of social obligations or the need for external validation, one can turn inward to explore their own thoughts, emotions, and desires. In solitude, there is the space to confront personal fears, insecurities, and unresolved conflicts, which can often go unnoticed in the bustle of social interaction. This process of self-exploration allows a person to develop a clearer sense of who they are and what they truly seek in life. Rather than seeing solitude as a negative or burdensome experience, it can be viewed as a fertile ground for self-acceptance. When alone, there is no pressure to conform to others' expectations or to seek approval. This freedom enables a person to embrace their authentic self, without judgment or comparison. It is in moments of solitude that we can truly learn to accept our flaws, mistakes, and imperfections, which are often hidden from others in our social interactions. By cultivating self-compassion and understanding during these moments, we create a solid foundation of self-worth that does not rely on external sources. This inner peace is essential for developing healthy, authentic relationships in the future, as it allows us to engage with others without the need to seek validation from them. Through solitude, we also gain the clarity necessary to form deeper connections with others. When we are not constantly seeking outside approval or the company of others, we can become more attuned to our own emotional needs and desires. This self-awareness provides insight into the type of relationships we truly want to cultivate, ones that are built on mutual respect, shared values, and authenticity. Rather than rushing into friendships or relationships out of a need for companionship, we learn to approach them with intention, seeking those who resonate with our true selves. As a result, the relationships we form after periods of solitude are more likely to be genuine, fulfilling, and lasting. Solitude serves as a mirror that reflects our innermost self, free from the distractions of external influence. While loneliness may initially feel uncomfortable, it is often in these moments of isolation that we can identify the internal barriers that have prevented us from connecting with others. These barriers, whether they are fears of rejection, low self-esteem, or unresolved emotional wounds, can only be addressed through introspection. By understanding and accepting ourselves fully, we break down the walls that keep us isolated from others, paving the way for deeper connections in the future. The value of solitude lies in its transformative power. It is a space for personal growth, where we learn to become whole on our own before seeking companionship with others. By cultivating self-acceptance and gaining clarity about our true desires, we approach relationships from a place of inner stability, which allows for more meaningful and authentic connections. In this way, solitude is not an obstacle but a necessary step in the path to true friendship and lasting emotional fulfillment. A man with no friends may initially feel a deep sense of isolation, but this solitude is not necessarily a negative experience. Instead, it offers an opportunity for introspection and self-discovery. Through the silence and absence of external distractions, one can begin to turn inward, examining the deeper aspects of their own being. In this space, the man has the chance to confront his fears, insecurities, and the emotional patterns that have kept him from forming meaningful connections with others. By understanding himself better, he can ultimately transform his sense of isolation into a path toward personal growth. Loneliness can often be mistaken for a deficiency, but it is in fact a powerful tool for self-reflection and inner work. In solitude, the man is free from the need to conform to others' expectations or to seek external validation. He has the chance to develop a clearer sense of his true self, embracing his strengths, weaknesses, and desires without fear of judgment. Through this process of self-acceptance, he cultivates a sense of inner peace that becomes the foundation for any future relationships. It is through understanding and accepting oneself that true connections with others can later emerge, based on mutual respect and authenticity. The man's fear of vulnerability may also be a key reason for his isolation. Avoiding emotional exposure, whether out of fear of rejection or judgment, often leads to shallow relationships or an inability to connect with others on a deeper level. True companionship requires trust, openness, and the willingness to be seen for who one truly is, flaws and all. By confronting the fear of vulnerability and allowing himself to be vulnerable, the man can begin to form genuine, lasting friendships. These connections are built on the foundation of mutual understanding and emotional honesty, rather than superficial appearances or transactional needs. The role of ego cannot be overlooked in the man's isolation. The ego may convince him that he must maintain control over his image or protect himself from others' judgment. However, it is precisely by letting go of the ego's need for validation and perfection that deeper connections can form. True friendships are born from a place of openness, where both individuals are free to express their authentic selves without fear of rejection or criticism. The man, through letting go of the ego's grip, can learn to approach relationships with humility and authenticity, creating the space for meaningful and supportive friendships to flourish. In the end, the journey of a man with no friends is not one of endless isolation, but of self-realization and growth. Through solitude, vulnerability, and the shedding of ego-driven barriers, he has the potential to develop a stronger sense of self and, in turn, build more authentic relationships. The isolation he experiences is not a punishment, but a chance for transformation, where he can learn to accept himself fully and connect with others in a deeper, more meaningful way. It is only when one is comfortable with their own inner world that they can invite others in, leading to true companionship and lasting friendship. Thanks for watching.